everybody. Thanks for being here. Thanks to the True You people for inviting me here. This is really, really cool. Let's see. So you already heard about me, who I am. This is a facsimile of me. These are some ways you can get in touch with me. I invite you to ask me for help. Ask me questions about anything. You can do it while we're right here together, and you can do it after this session, after today. So you can call me, you can text me, you can email me, whatever you want. I'll do my best to get back to you. So everybody here has probably been on a team or is on a team, right? Yep. And what I yep. And maybe you've even been on some really good teams in your life. Maybe you are right now. I want you to think about the best team you've ever been on in your entire life. And we'll start by defining what I mean by team. And we'll use this definition throughout the talk. When I say team, I mean any group of 2 or more people aligned with a common goal. Any group of 2 or more people aligned with a common goal. So your best team ever, that could be the work team you're on right now. That could be a previous work team. Right? That'd be 2 or more people aligned with a common goal. That could be a group of friends who do something fun together. One person told me the best team ever was a group of friends who go fishing every Saturday. Think about my wife. She's gotten really excited about knitting. She knits with friends. Like they're sort of like a knitting team. It could be like a volunteer organization that you're part of. That might be a best team. It could be a sports team that you are on or were on. It could be a school project team. Could be you and your family, you and your significant other. I think of my wife Molly and me as a team. We're two or more people, 2 people, aligned with a common goal, like the best us. This will be a silent, a quiet thinking activity. Identify your best team of your entire life. We'll just pause to make sure you get that. Okay, now we'll do something sort of like a guided meditation on that best team ever. I want you to take yourself back to that best team. Like really experience that team. I see at least one person sort of closing their eyes. You can try this out. Close your eyes. Take yourself back to that best team ever. Really go back there. Experience it. What does it feel like? What is the sensation of being together with that best team? And try to find one word that you could use to describe that experience of that best team ever. What is one word that you could use to describe it? Safe. You can open your eyes, yeah. And then you might feel safe. Okay, so safe is one word that describes that best team ever. How about anybody else? Something similar, different? Supported. Trust. What was it? Courage or encouraging? Flow. Unstoppable. What is it? Chemistry. Somebody else? Aligned. Achievement. Candor. Fun. Yeah. What? Learning. Yeah. So I ask people this question everywhere I go. I have a podcast in which I interview people and I ask them this question. What's your best team? What's the experience like? What's one word that you can use to describe it? In some of my classes, these are some of the words people have used to describe the sensation of their best team ever. Similar words to what we just heard here, including things like achievement and fun and safe. So we all know what it's like to be on the best team ever. We all know the experience of it. We probably all want that again. When I look back at my best teams, I feel like I got lucky. And at least a couple people are nodding their heads. You feel like you got lucky. For many of us, when you look back at your best team, we got lucky. We didn't necessarily know how that happened or how to do it. It just happened, and we had a great experience. We had a great team. So this session is about getting that again on purpose, so like with intentionality. How could you do that on purpose and get it consistently? I'll share a little bit of science and research on high-performance teams. we'll do a lot of practice. We'll do a bunch of activities to practice some of the skills that can get you that. And then we'll share how you can bring this back to your real work team. Like most people will be here today and tomorrow, so you can bring this back to your real work team on Friday. So this is about core protocols, team emotional intelligence, and psychological safety. The way I start telling the story about the research is with this article that was in the New York Times Sunday magazine a little over 2 years ago. Many people in the room have probably seen this and read this article or heard about this. The research on high-performance teams goes back about 6 decades. People have been trying to understand work teams in particular and figure out what makes the best work teams the best work teams. The people at Google, maybe there's somebody who used to work at Google in the room, they care about having really high-performing teams. Everybody at Google works on a team. Some of the teams at Google are good, and some of the teams at Google are really, really good. And they wanted to understand at Google what makes the really, really good teams so good, so much better than the others. So they hired the right people, some psychologists, some researchers, some anthropologists. They looked at the research from the last 6 decades, and they reproduced a lot of the research to figure out what worked at Google. In that 6 decades of research, different people have identified as many as 250 different characteristics of high-performing teams. So every once in a while, you'll see another article in the popular press, and you could do this too. You could write an article on Medium or something. Here's the headline you use. It goes blank, and you put some word there, colon, the one thing you need for a high-performance team. And there have been 250 of these one things in the last 60 years of research on it. Google wanted to know which one of those one things really is the one thing. So they got 200 teams to volunteer to participate in their research where they replicated this stuff. They found at Google that the one thing for Google teams that correlated to high performance was this thing called psychological safety. Psychological safety is this sense that you feel safe. It's like you're safe here and you're safe here, right? Most of us are physically safe in our work. We don't have to wear steel-toed boots or helmets or big, thick gloves or anything for the work that we do. This is not physical safety. We have that built in. So it's about psychological safety. It's that you feel safe in your head and in your heart showing up at work. You feel safe showing up as yourself, as who you truly are. You feel safe to take risks. You can try something new without getting punished for it if it doesn't go well. In fact, what happens is if it doesn't go well, they call it a learning opportunity in a safe kind of work environment. It's safe to say you don't know something. It's safe to ask questions. It's safe to ask for help. These are characteristics of psychological safety. What they found at Google was that the teams that measure highest on performance objectively, so they can measure the performance of a team, their work output, the revenue they're associated with, whatever it was that they measured, those teams also measure high on psychological safety. And there are ways to measure psychological safety, diagnostics that the psychologists use. They found that this correlation was even higher than the technical skills, the competence of the individuals on the teams. So you could take a group of people who have like 99th percentile individual skills, but if they're on a team where they don't feel safe, they get outperformed by other teams. Teams where people are maybe like 80th percentile individuals, but they're really high in psych safety. Those teams outperform the individuals who don't feel safe together. So psych safety is a thing that correlates to really high performance on teams. The way they do this at Google today is that they're kind of done with the research, they're satisfied. They hold workshops, they measure a team on their performance in psych safety. They hold a workshop afterwards, they teach the teams about psychological safety, they talk about it a little bit, and they wish them good luck with that. Because it's more like a mindset than a particular behavior. But that's okay, that's something. This goes beyond technical teams. This is from a dentist's magazine. I live in Boston. In my neighborhood, there's the highest population density of dentists in all the world. I shared what I was doing for my work with my new dentist. You know, it's one of these conversations with stuff in your mouth. And somehow the dentist knows what you're saying. She knew what I was saying. She brought out this paper version of the magazine. It was all about psychological safety at dentists' offices and how those dental offices perform better than others when people feel safe. I shared the Google story with Stephen Wolf. He was the co-author of this article with Vanessa Druskett in Harvard Business Review. None of this stuff is new. This is old, like 6 decades of research. This is from 17 years ago. Steve and Vanessa, in their research, they found that psychological safety correlates to high performance. This is really well known. It's been widely replicated. They also found that psychological safety was the result of team emotional intelligence. So it's a broader thing. Without team emotional intelligence, you don't get psychological safety. Psychological safety is an outcome. Team emotional intelligence is kind of like individual EI. Individual EI is that I understand my current emotional state and I can govern my behavior appropriately. And I can infer your emotional state and I can influence your behavior based on what I infer. Right? So if somebody walked in the room right now and they were frowny-faced, we might infer that they're sad. Somebody might get them a cup of water or tell them a joke and influence their emotional state to be different. Team emotional intelligence is like that, but at the scale of the group of people who work together. So as a team, we do that individual EI stuff. We understand the state of us as individuals. We can influence our behavior. Also, we understand the state of people outside of the team. We can influence their behavior. They call that social capital. We can invest in relationships with people outside of our team. Through investing in those sorts of relationships, we can influence them to do the right things to help us. We can do things to help them, they can do things to help us. Teams that measure high on emotional intelligence, including measuring high on social capital, they also measure high on executive support, leadership support. And then it's kind of obvious why these teams are high performing. When they have executive support, their leaders get stuff out of the way, they give them all the resources they need, they connect them with the right people in other teams or other organizations, and they get stuff done. So teams that measure high on team EI, well, psychological safety is part of that, so they also measure high on psych safety. They have executives who get everything out of the way for them, they get stuff done, and they're successful. Steve and Vanessa still do this work in a consulting kind of way. They still do a little bit of research on it. Same kind of thing as with Google. They run workshops, they measure teams on this stuff, they talk about it afterward, and they kind of wish people good luck. Because it's science, there's correlation between these two things. They haven't really found ways to induce it. Uh-oh. Jim and Michelle McCarthy did some non-academic research related to team performance. And they started working for Microsoft in the mid-1990s, so it's contemporaneous to a lot of this research that we've been talking about, the psych safety research, the team EI research. They were on a really great tech team at Microsoft in the mid-90s. They joined this group. It was about 150 people in this part of Microsoft. It was the compilers group back then. And it was a very mediocre organization, team of teams at the time. They were so mediocre, it's kind of a nice euphemistic way of saying they weren't that good at all. They were in danger of being cut from the company. Jim and Michelle worked with them for a while. They kind of got lucky. They're not really sure how it happened. But this team ended up being one of the most successful teams at Microsoft ever, up to that point, and in the world up to that point. It was the team that built Visual C++. Way back in olden days, that was an awesome piece of software. They invented new technology and they invented new business practices. They invented things, it was the first really good IDE, integrated development environment. They invented code completes, they invented templates. They made it easy for people who weren't PhDs in computer science to be able to write good apps. They invented new business models. Like it used to be, you'd go to the store. It was like going to the grocery store, and you'd go to a shelf and pick a box off the shelf and admire the box and bring it to a cash register and pay for this box of software and bring it home. They invented, as a business model, subscribe to the software, pay for it, and we'll deliver it to you. We'll just come to wherever you happen to be, and we'll send it to you 4 times a year. That was a really good technical feat as well, being able to deliver software 4 times a year back in the mid-90s. So they invented new ways of doing business, they invented new technology, and they were so good, they were objectively better than other teams. This is what we mean by high performance. Objectively better than other teams doing similar work. They were objectively better than other teams doing similar work. Borland was a competing company. They went out of business because the work of this team was so good. Borland sort of came back to business later on, or at least somebody else bought the name and spun it back up. But Borland actually went out of business because they couldn't compete with the technology and the business that this group at Microsoft put together. So Jim and Michelle were onto something. They kind of felt like they got lucky. They weren't sure how it happened. They left Microsoft and started up a team research lab to try to figure out what was going on. And in the experiments that they ran, this is what they did. They would get a group of people into their lab for 5 days. On the first day, they would give them an assignment, and then 5 days to get it done. The team had a deadline. They would just watch. Jim and Michelle just watched the teams at work. Michelle describes it as being sort of like Jane Goodall watching the chimps in the wild. They would just watch, take notes, and see what was happening. They noticed that for the teams that were successful in their lab, they shared many similar behaviors. There were some patterns of behavior. And they just collected these patterns. They wrote them down in a way that they thought they could transmit them to other teams, that they could sort of be learnable. They wrote them down in a pattern language that they called protocols. A protocol is a way for two humans to interact. We know what computer protocols are, many people in the room, so two computers can interact with each other with no misunderstanding. A protocol is like that. Before computers were doing it, humans were doing it. Think about like diplomatic protocols. So representatives of two countries could talk to each other in a well-defined way, so there's no misunderstandings and they can accomplish their goal together, which is different from doing something like waking up in the morning and tweeting about whatever you feel like and hoping that you get the right outcome. That's not a protocol, or maybe it's an anti-protocol. So they documented these behavior patterns. The core behavior patterns were like the fundamental ones that they deduced that all of the teams that were successful were doing. And then they ran these experiments again with different teams. Still same experiment, 5 days to get an assignment done. This time they intervened by teaching these behavior patterns to the teams in the lab. And they noticed that every time they did that, those teams were successful, right? So they were doing evidence-based research. They weren't publishing this research the way people like Amy Edmondson or Stephen Vanessa were publishing their research in academic journals. They were doing evidence-based research that is connected to the research on psych safety and team emotional intelligence. I do some work with Steve Wolf these days, the co-author of that Harvard Business Review article. And we've connected these behavior patterns to the research on team emotional intelligence. We do a little bit of research together on that. And what we find is something like this. What we find is that if you want a high-performance team, and you probably do, then you want psychological safety. There's really good research and science on that. Psychological safety is highly correlated to high-performance teams. If you want psychological safety, that's kind of an outcome of team emotional intelligence. But again, the research on that is that it's sort of a state of mind versus a set of particular behaviors. And if you want high team EI, then you want to have some particular behaviors like the core protocols. There are definitely others, but this is one set of behaviors that you can easily learn and practice with your team. And so that's what we're going to practice for the next 40 minutes, some of these behavior patterns together. So I organized these behavior patterns as building blocks, sort of like a protocol stack. The first building block is about positive bias. It's about positivity. I define positivity like this with these double negatives. Non-negativity, what I mean is you kind of start with positive intention. No negation is about not automatically saying no to people when they share an idea, when they voice an opinion, when they create something and show it to you. You don't automatically say no or that sucks. And pretend is about suspending disbelief. So when somebody shares something new with you, you pretend that it might have some value, it might be a good thing, and you collect some more data and you try it out. And it's actually a really good learning strategy to pretend that something might be a good idea, try it out, collect your own data. We're going to do a bunch of that as we practice these ideas here in the room together. Will that be okay with everybody? Mm-hmm. All right. And if it's not okay, this is your chance to sneak away. I won't, it's okay, I don't mind. If it's not okay and you don't sneak away, that's okay too. Just let everybody else pretend so they can try it out and learn for themselves. We're going to practice what positive bias feels like together. To do this activity, you need a partner. So everybody get together in groups of 2 right now. You might have to move around the room a little bit to get yourself a partner. Groups of 2 will work best. I saw at least one pair of people do this. Shake your partner's hand. That's a good idea. Yeah. Okay. If you didn't shake somebody's hand, you could look around for a partner right now. If you don't, that's okay. The activities are optional. And if you ever lead activities like this, shake your partner's hand is a good way to make sure people have a partner. So you can try that one for yourself. I know there's a reception later, but this activity is about making a plan for dinner tonight. So like after the reception, your goal is to make a plan for dinner tonight with your partner. I'll give you 60 seconds to do that. Now, that could be really easy, so of course we have to make it a little bit more interesting. To make it interesting, every time your partner says something, you respond starting with the words yes, but. Okay, so it'd be like, hey, you want to get dinner tonight? And your partner will say, yes, but I already have a plan with somebody else. And then you respond, yes, but, blah, 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 and you see where that conversation will get you. All right? Are there any questions about this activity? Okay, 60 seconds to make a plan for dinner tonight. Yes, butting each other. Go ahead. All right, we're going to do a second version of this activity. In the second version, you will always respond to your partner beginning with the words yes and. All right, so let's get dinner tonight, and you'll say yes, and I'd know exactly where we could go, or whatever. Okay, 60 seconds, make a plan for dinner tonight, yes anding each other. Go ahead. All right, let's debrief on that a little bit. The first experience, yes, but, what was that like for you?
Felt like a real downer.
Felt like a real downer.
So hard to continue.
It was so hard to continue. Anybody else have an experience similar or different from that? All right, and yes and, what was that one like? It was easy. What else?
We had plans 30 seconds in. So
You had a plan after 30 seconds. Yeah, anybody else?
felt reinforcing
It felt reinforcing. Yeah.
of each other.
Reinforcing of each other, and?
Built the first steps of the plan and then built onto that.
You built a first step, and then you kept adding on. Just more and more steps. Cool. And I'm going to be hungry tonight. Where's the best place? What's the best dinner plan? Who should I go with? Cheese board?
We're going to get Italian and beer and ice cream and go on a walk.
Italian beer, ice cream, and a walk. This sounds really good. I might see if I can tag along. All right. So this activity, anybody who's an improv actor will recognize this activity. This is something from improv acting. And it's sort of based on what people call the first rule of improv, which is to respect each other and the ideas you create together. All right, it's about saying yes. It's about adding on. And this is like a foundational thing for really great teams. Improv actors are really good at teaming with each other. And if you want that, this is the starting point. Just shifting your perspective to positivity, biasing your body language, biasing your word choices, even just changing one word, but to and. You can change the way you're interacting with each other as teammates. We're going to add on to this. So the next building block is called freedom, and what I mean is autonomy. We've got a few behavior patterns that you can use with your team, that if these are team agreements, and think about teams that measure high on team emotional intelligence and psychological safety, they have explicit agreements with each other, explicit working agreements, explicit agreements about how they behave together. So here are some examples of behavior patterns, behaviors that you could explicitly agree to together. And these are the names of some of these protocols, the names of some of these behavior patterns. The first one is pass. Pass is a behavior that lets you opt out of anything you don't want to do with your team. So it turns out that on high-performance teams, people are there because they want to be there, not because somebody told them they had to be there. They join the team because they want to. They're doing the work that they want to do. They're with the people they want to be with. They're doing the work in the way they want to do it. This is autonomy. This is total freedom. On high-performing teams, people are there because they want to be, and they're doing the work they want to do the way they want to do it. Pass is a very simple behavior to indicate that you're opting out, but you're still with the team. You're still in on being teammates together. So pass goes like this. Anytime you don't want to do something, but you want to stay engaged with your teammates, you just say, I pass. And that's it. And some agreements that go along with that include that nobody on the team asks you why you're passing. Nobody tries to get you to do the thing anyway. Nobody talks about you for having passed. It's just okay to pass. Later on, if you want to do the thing anyway, you can unpass and sort of do the thing anyway. So an example of an actual application of this, it could be your turn in a meeting, like a daily stand-up, if that's one of your practices. For whatever reason, you're not ready or you don't feel like doing it, your turn could be, I pass. And that's it. You might be doing pair programming or mob programming. It could be your turn at the keyboard. If you don't feel like doing it, you can just say, I pass. And that's it. By observation, the evidence is that when you look at high-performing teams, people can opt out. And they don't get punished for opting out anyway. It's very safe to do so.
What if it's a task that no one likes doing, like budgeting, and everyone passes?
What if it's a task that nobody likes doing, like budgeting, and everybody passes? Then maybe it's not that important.
Okay.
Maybe, because nobody wants to do it. What we notice is that when you connect all of these behaviors together, you get a highly connected team in a state of shared vision. And when you've got a team that's really highly connected in a state of shared vision, people know that they have to get some stuff done. Even if it's not their favorite thing to do, they will do it for the benefit of each other and for the team. Right? So maybe you don't feel like doing budgeting right now, so I could pass on it right now, but we will get around to doing it in time.
Hopefully before you run out of money.
Hopefully before you run out of money. Yeah. You got these nice VCs around here. You know, just, oh look, there's money growing on that tree.
Yeah, right.
Checkout is kind of like pass, but even more. The idea of checkout is that, well, when you're with your teammates, when you're working on stuff together, you're totally engaged when you're present with each other. Right? Here's an anti-pattern. You're in a meeting with each other, and you're kind of like doing email or something else and aiming the tops of your heads at each other instead of actually doing whatever that meeting is about. You're not really engaged with each other. You're physically present, but you're not totally present with each other. If you find that you're in that state, like there's something more important to do, you can check out. You can leave the room and go do that more important thing. This is what people do on high-performing teams. They don't waste each other's time. If there's something more important to do, they go do it. The sort of by-the-book scripted way to do it is you say, I'm checking out, and you leave the room. Oh, I'm checking out. Hey, I just checked out. Right. Nobody talked about me, right? Because that's one of the agreements that goes along with it. It wouldn't be safe to check out if people talked about you afterward. Nobody chased me out of the room. That was cool. You did that just right. It wouldn't be safe to check out if people chased you out of the room and tried to drag you back in. If people tried to convince you not to check out, right? On high-performing teams, people are there because they want to be there. They're doing the work they want to do. They're doing the most efficient thing at the moment for themselves and for their team. And on these high-performing teams, teammates recognize that there might be something else to do, and they let their teammates go do that. They don't make them stay in that meeting just because it was on the calendar. Right? So you can use checkout anytime you want. The next building block here is called self-awareness. Right? So we've got this positivity as a foundation, this autonomy on top of that. And then we'll take these autonomous, positively biased individuals and add on some self-awareness. These are characteristics that lead to higher team emotional intelligence, individual EI and team EI. 3 behavior patterns related to self-awareness are checking in, asking for help, and personal alignment. We'll do some activities on 2 of these. Asking for help, I'll just tell you that. Remember I said on teams where people feel safe, one example of what can happen is they can ask each other for help. Right? An easy scripted way to ask for help is to make sure the person you want help from knows, so you might say their name. It might be like, Robert, will you get me a cookie right now? I'm kind of hungry and I need some more energy. Right? Well, this is just an example. So it's a very clearly stated yes/no question with a person in mind who you'd like to offer the help, who would like to offer you the help. Then the person can say yes or no or offer you some other kind of help. Right? There's no coercion here. Nobody's forced to give you help. There's autonomy and freedom in asking for help. It's totally okay. It would have totally been okay if you said no. Totally cool if you say yes. Saying no is kind of like passing. Yeah, passing on offering the help. You could offer some other kind of help. Like you could tell me, well, the snacks are up there. They're really easy to get to. And then you can pick out whatever you want. That would be a different kind of help. Right? So that's what ask for help looks like. Now we'll add on some activities for additional self-awareness. Many people have this worksheet. If you want one, I'll give it to you. If you don't have one, you can just write this down in your notes. But here's the first activity on the worksheet. Oh, thanks. Finish the sentence, fill in the blank. And you can fill in the blank with any word or words that you want. How do you feel right now? What's your current emotional state? This will be a silent thinking and writing activity. All right, then we'll have a second version of this. In the second version of this, it's multiple choice. Fill in the blank with one of these 4 words: glad, sad, mad, or afraid. Which one of these is closest to how you feel right now? You could even pick more than one, but pick at least one. If you're not sure, you could pick a random one. You probably have some element of that in your body right now. Whatever random one you pick, you could iterate over the list and pick which one feels closest. You could ask, do I feel glad? Yes or no. Do I feel sad? Yes or no. Fill in the blank with whichever one of these feels right now. Okay, and then we'll add on a little bit more information. Whatever you answered, describe to yourself why you feel that way. You could write it down as notes. You could just tell yourself a story in your head. Whatever you want. Okay, we're going to do a group activity now in groups of 3. So find yourself 2 partners. Form groups of 3 right now. I'll pause while you do that. All right, here's the activity in your group of 3. Each one of you will take a turn doing this thing called an emotion check-in. You just practiced by writing it down. So the rest of this will be easy. You could even just read what you wrote down. It'll be really easy, I promise. Each one of you will take a turn playing the role speaker. While you're the role speaker, the other people will play the role listener. When you're the speaker, when it's your turn to be speaker, you say, I feel glad, sad, mad, or afraid. Just fill in the blank. You can add more information about how you feel that way or why you feel that way. You could opt out. You could say, I pass. And then you let them know you're done by saying, I'm in. All right? And you could repeat steps 2 and 3 as many times as you want. Maybe there was more than one that you felt at the moment or that you feel right now. You can repeat steps 2 and 3 as many times as you want, and just at the end you say, I'm in. When you say I'm in, the people who are listeners say, welcome. And that's it. It's an easy script to follow. We'll practice this in your group of 3. We'll spend 2 minutes doing this together. Everybody take a turn being speaker. If you all do it, you can take another turn. You can pick a random emotion word and try it out and see what happens. You can kind of do whatever you want. Just try following the script and everybody take a turn being speaker. So here we go. All right, let's debrief on that. What was that experience like for you?
A little bit like a group therapy.
So, it felt a little bit like therapy. Okay, and somebody else said it felt scary. Right? And what?
It felt a little vulnerable.
It felt vulnerable. Yeah. Anybody have anything to add, similar or different from this?
The opening and closing feel a bit forced.
Opening, closing feel a bit forced.
But like I enjoyed actually sharing my feelings, but there's just like a checking in and
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little forced, it's scripted. Usually what I say about that is, yeah, it feels a little forced, it is scripted, you're right. And you don't have to do it exactly like this, right? The point of having it scripted is so it's really easy to sort of transmit this to other people so you can reproduce it with your team. For a lot of people, like me, you know, all right, I grew up as a software developer. I grew up as a low emotional intelligence person. This stuff was really hard for me, right? Just like feelings, emotion, what? No, we just write code, right? This is sort of like a code. I can run, and it tells me exactly what to do. I say I feel, I pick one from the multiple choice list. That's easy. There's only 4. I could add explanation. I don't have to. I cannot, oh, it's optional. I don't even have to do it. And I just say I'm in. It lets you know I'm done, and you say welcome. It's easy enough for me to have learned. It's easy to transmit to other people. The point is not to do it exactly like this if you don't want to. It's kind of like when I was a kid, I was a piano student, right? And I would do this intentional practice. I was a really good piano student. I would play scales and do different finger exercises and all these different patterns. That was the intentional practice, so I could be good at the technical stuff. Nobody wanted to hear me play scales. They wanted to hear music, right? This is kind of like intentional practice for emotion sharing. You could do it like this, but really the music is when you can just have a good conversation, maybe starting with sharing emotional state. You have a question?
I was just going to offer an addition to what you were suggesting there around the power of having a specific word around this about checking in, because it indicates to people I'm taking a risk and I'm like taking a chance of being vulnerable. So if you have that as a code word, everyone knows, okay, let's dial in. This person's going through something here, and just make the space where they recognize immediately. Whereas if it's a little more ad hoc, it may not be clear if they're just sort of, hey, I had a shitty subway ride in, or I'm actually going somewhere that I want to share with you.
Yeah, so giving it a name, giving it a specific script to follow can make it easier for people. So it's not just ad hoc, it's not a random thing that's happening. People understand what's happening when I say I'm checking in, right? And one last comment to your question.
So when do you check in?
When do you check in? A lot of teams that I work with, and even other teams tell me they do this, a lot of teams have a practice of a daily stand-up, for example, and they add this on as a 4th piece of information, like what did you get done yesterday, what are you planning to do today, anything slowing you down, and how do you feel? And other teams, I do this with a lot of teams I work with, and other teams tell me they do this. Anytime they meet together, they start the meeting by checking in. And just quickly establishes what's going on with everybody. They connect together really fast. And the rest of the meeting is easy after that. Okay, so that's check-in. That's something you could try with your teammates. Here's another one of the behaviors. Another solo, quiet thinking, writing activity. Fill in the blank. Not just anything random that you want, but the most important thing that you want. The biggest, most important thing in the world. What is the most important thing to you right now? Like, think really big. What do you really, really want? Not I want a cheeseburger, but I want something really big and important. Okay, this thing that you want, you probably don't have it because you're calling it a want, or maybe you want more of it. Why don't you have it already? Right? It's a want, not a have. What's blocking you from having this really important thing, this thing that you care about the most? Why don't you have it yet? Answer that question for yourself. Okay, we'll repeat this question, but this time it will be a little different. That thing that's blocking you, what could you do to eliminate that thing that's blocking you and thereby sort of achieve everything you want? I want blank, multiple choice. Pick one of these words to fill in the blank. Self-awareness, integrity, courage, passion, peace, presence, self-care, fun, wisdom, health. I want blank. Fill in the blank with one of those words. Imagine that if you were an expert at one of these words, then it would eliminate everything that's blocking you, and you would get everything you want. Like imagine you were a 9th degree black belt in one of these words. And you could channel all of the integrity or courage or whatever that exists in the universe. It would eliminate what's blocking you. You'd get the most important things that you want. Which word? Why is there an asterisk at self-awareness? Self-awareness is the default answer. If you're not sure what you want, try self-awareness. It's sort of a joke and sort of not. Self-awareness is a really good answer. You can just pick that one as your answer. Okay, we'll call this your personal alignment. This is actually one of the behavior patterns. This one is called personal alignment. What the McCarthys noticed is that on high-performing teams, people were very aware of what their purest motivation was as individuals. And they would use this to sort of guide their behaviors. Like if they really want self-care, then anytime they had a decision to make, do something like this or do something like that, they would pick whichever one was more aligned with self-care, or whichever one was more aligned with whatever their personal alignment is. So this is about the self-awareness set of behavior patterns. Hold on to this personal alignment thing. In a few moments, somebody might ask you about it. We'll add on a 4th layer to this stack, a 4th layer of building blocks. This one is called connection. So far we've built up a group of people who are biased toward positivity. They're autonomous. They're together because they want to be. They're doing the work they want to do. They're self-aware individuals, very highly self-aware individuals. And what we want to do is have them connect into a cohesive whole, like which we call a team, and in this case it'll be a really high-performing team. So there are 5 behavior patterns related to connection. 3 of them we've already talked about: check in, ask for help, and personal alignment. Intention check and investigate are new here. Intention check is, well, it's related to positive bias. It's assuming people are doing things to get the right outcome together, and if somebody does something that you don't understand, you could ask them for more information, and it would sort of be like, when you did blah, 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 what was your intention? Or when you said blah, 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 what were you hoping the outcome would be? And to just sort of learn what the person's intention was instead of accusing them of doing something wrong. And then there's investigate. This is a really good follow-on from the previous talk. If you were in the room, you heard about taking a stance of curiosity. Investigate is about being curious, to learn more about the people you're with, or to learn more about something that's happening. It's about learning from each other. We're going to try this in your group of 3, that group that you were just doing the check-in activity with. In this activity, one of you will volunteer to be investigated about your personal alignment. And the other 2 will ask you to learn more about your personal alignment. They're going to take a stance of curiosity. The people who are investigating will ask open questions. Open questions have many possible answers. They don't lead you down a path to a particular answer. This isn't about being like a TV lawyer and trying to catch somebody in a trap. This is about learning and asking more information about whatever that person's personal alignment is and what it means to them and why it's important to them. Don't push any help on your partner. Don't be like, oh, I said I want help. Yeah, well, there's, I just looked at Yelp. There's 10,000 yoga studios in Berkeley. We could just do that for health. So don't push help on people. If they want help, remember that behavior pattern called ask for help? If they want help, they'll ask for help. Two possibly really good opening questions for this activity are, what is your personal alignment? Or what do you want? Like what's the most important thing in the world to you? So we'll do this activity in groups of 3. We'll do it for about 3 minutes. Investigators, learn as much as you can about the third person in your group's personal alignment. So get back together in your group of 3. Investigate. One of you volunteer to be investigated. We'll do this for 3 minutes. Go ahead. All right, let's debrief on that activity. So that little bit of investigate, what was that like for you? How'd that go? It went like this? Anybody else? It was interesting? It was cathartic? It was deep? You felt what? It built trust. All right. Yeah. So this is kind of what happens when we're curious with each other, when we share something really important with our teammates. It builds trust. It builds safety. We've seen skills that obviously build EI, team EI. So these are the things, these are specific behaviors that will correlate to higher performance. And this is known from 6 decades of the research and actual practice. So I participated in a couple of the check-ins and a little bit of investigate. This is something that always happens to me. It always happens. I feel a physical sensation right around here in my body. And the word that I've sort of been taught to associate with that, the word that I put on that is love. I don't know what your HR handbook looks like, but maybe the word love isn't in it, so we could call it friendship. Same thing. This is what happens. This is sort of like what we just did. It's kind of like a recipe for friendship. We started with this bias for positivity. We added on freedom and autonomy. These are things that happen with the people you care about the most in your life. You have the freedom, you choose to be together. You share your emotional state with each other, with the people you care about the most, and they do the same to you. And you don't try to fix anything, because there's nothing to be fixed. You do something like personal alignment with the people you care about the most. You share with them what's most important in the world to you, and they do the same. And you ask them more. You investigate, and they investigate you. You continue connecting deeper and deeper, and there's nice positive feedback loops. This is a little bit, well, okay, we're in Berkeley. This is probably totally okay here, right? Okay, I'm from the East Coast in Boston and New York. This is really weird hippie stuff. If this is really weird hippie stuff to you, that's okay. You can do this as source code. This is the source code for friendship, or source code for love. So you can just run this in your head or in your heart, whatever you want. You can run this source code with your team. We add on specific behavior patterns to help you operate efficiently and once you're in this state of high connection with each other. Right? Once you're in this state of high connection, you are an awesome team and you can get anything done together. This is where no matter what your individual skills are, you're going to outperform other teams. You can add on anything you want here, and anything else that you do is going to help you accomplish your goals together. There are 3 specific behavior patterns that can help you do that. You can look them up. I'll give you the URL where you can look them up later. The last layer in this stack, the last building block, they call it protocol check, but really what it is it's a way to let somebody on your team know that they sort of violated one of the team agreements in a very safe way. Like, you know, we had some agreements. It's not exactly the way we were just doing it. Let's go back to our original team agreements and sort of like staying on track with each other. So these are the behavior patterns. We'll wrap up with sort of key takeaways. Here's some key takeaways, right? This research has been going on for a long time. People know the science behind it, what correlates to high performance. The research is about correlations, not about specific behaviors, the academic research anyway. The practical research is about specific behaviors that can get you to high performance, and they happen to align with the academic research. If you want a high performance team, you definitely want psychological safety. If you want that, you definitely want team emotional intelligence. The science is there. If you want team EI and psych safety, you could try core protocols as a specific set of concrete behaviors that you can do with each other as teammates. You can try it out. To learn more, you can ask me for help anytime you want. You can visit this website, thecoreprotocols.org. These behavior patterns are documented there. You could look up one of my classes. My second book is coming out as a free download on InfoQ, maybe this week, definitely next week at the latest. So you can look for that. If you sign up for my email list, I'll let you know when it's available. We do this with teams. We We measure your team on their performance, on their team EI. Can do this for you. We do a little bit of training and coaching. We do regular practice on this stuff so you can actually build the skills. And repeat, sort of do this longitudinally so we can remeasure your team and see how you're doing, give you some information, and keep helping. You don't need me to do this. You can just find the behavior patterns at thecoreprotocols.org. All right. Finally, one of the behavior patterns for high-performance teams is one of these productivity patterns is called perfection game. It's a way of collecting good ideas from each other to make whatever it is you're doing together better. I've got a written version of it here. I'm going to ask for help. Group, will you fill in this feedback form? It's in the style of perfection game. I want to know from you what you got from this session, what you think about it, and what else we could do to make it perfect. For like, let's say we do this again next year. What would it take to make this perfect next time? So will you fill in that for me? If so, thanks. If not, also thanks. Finally, thank you all for being here. I had a really good time. I love it here in the Bay Area. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for being here in the room. I invite you to ask me for help. You know, like right now you can, or later on you can email me or call me or text me, whatever you want. I will get back to you. And that's all. Thanks for being here.